In charge of the wedding. Speaking of, so how's it going to affect the Trump ban now?
Good question.
How's that?
I doubt he's getting that.
Good question.
So how is this? Is Michael going to get him to America now?
They already denied him.
Oh,
they denied him already
before the wedding. They denied him.
So for those that don't, for those that don't,
sorry,
yeah,
that's
point of the wedding.
Right.
Can anyone break down the Trump ban for us? I can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, Trump has updated the ban. Now, this whole ban thing, he started in 2017. It was challenged. It went up all the way to the courts. There were parts of it that they kind of said you can't do. But for the most part, the Supreme Court has approved that, okay, yeah, he can actually have this plan. So now, prior, there were a few countries that were on it, right? Recently, they added some new countries on this ban. And all different countries have different varying degrees of what the ban is going to constitute. The new countries they recently added are Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar. Are you sure it's Myanmar?
That's how they say it.
And Nigeria.
Sudan and Tanzania too.
Tanzania also. The U.S. government also will stop issuing diversity visas to nationals of Sudan and Tanzania. The proclamation said the visas which Trump has criticized are available by lottery for applicants from countries with low. So they essentially ended lottery in those countries. Visa lottery. And my Nigerians will know what that's about. Danny, are you familiar with this?
But they ended the visa lottery in Nigeria.
Yeah, they ended it. Yeah, but they ended it in Sudan.
I can imagine what it did, but can you explain that?
They used to have this, was like a lottery almost, where the U.S. embassies in certain countries where they felt like were underrepresented, they would have like a lottery where anyone can just apply.
Like the lottery.
That's
for like a chance. And they'll just pick, of course, they will still interview you, go through certain rigorous screenings, and they'll pick you to become a resident of the U.S. So they stopped it in Nigeria a while ago. Now they just added Sudan and Tanzania to it. Eritrea. Now, specifically in Nigeria, because I know my people are probably curious about how this is going to affect us. They didn't end all visas.
Yes.
They're still going to be allowing visiting visas, student visas, because the college industry here, they you know. And keep in mind, this travel ban is supposed to address terrorism, right? That's the whole idea of the travel ban. It's supposed to address countries, predominantly Muslim countries, and put things in place to kind of deter any terrorists coming to the country. Right. Now, because Nigeria happens to be majority Muslim, we happen to also fall in that category, and that's why they can apply it to Nigeria. Even though I don't think it's necessarily
the reason why for Nigeria, especially, was because we don't leave when we get here. I thought that was another caveat that was added.
No, you don't understand. Like the argument made to the Supreme Court was for terrorism,
right,
for people.
Right.
And that was why initially, remember they called it Muslim ban, because it was targeted for countries with predominantly Muslim or with a significant Muslim. Because Nigeria happens to fall in that category, they're doing it under that rules. But in actual fact, it's really more so. Yes.
Go ahead.
In actual fact, it's really more so because they know that a lot of Nigerians come here, and
I just don't even see how the Muslim ban is constitutional.
It's not. It shouldn't be.
And I hate that's really how they're able to get that across. Right. Because most Muslims majority of them are not creating these. They're not terrorists. They're not creating these issues. They're scared. Their countries are being bombed.
Yeah.
Right. They're dying. Right. And they want it to stop. And so they're trying to get away from that.
Islamophobia, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So it says non-immigrant visas, including those for students and certain temporary workers, as well as visas reserved for potential employees with specialized skills, will not be affected by the ban. Okay, so your students,
it's just immigrant
right?
Visa.
It's immigrant visas.
So what this means is there's no more. You can't apply for green card.
Yeah,
but
from Nigeria.
Now, what I'm wondering is if you happen to be in Nigeria, because I know a lot of Nigerians are going to want to know this. If you happen to be Nigerian here and you want to file for someone back home,
I don't think you can do that.
You can't do that right now.
You can't do that right now.
Yeah.
You cannot.
Wait, you're saying you can't do that under this new rule?
With this new rule, you cannot do that. You can't file for anyone right now.
Get out of here.
It's part
of what if I'm married to the person?
I don't know how that works.
That is significant.
But I tell you something though. Marriage carries a lot of weight
in America.
Yeah. Because that's your immediate family.
Yeah, they can't do that to marriage.
Well, it says it right here. Yes, resettling families are not going to finding work or reuniting with their families in the United States.
So how do you get around that?
This is
huge. Somewhere else?
Say that again.
Hold on. The expansion of the restrictions, which already affected more than 135 million people in 7 countries, is likely to hinder more than 1 potential immigrants in the next year from resettling, finding work, or reuniting with their families in the United States.
Oh, fuck.
So you can't bring your family, basically, is what they're saying.
People. This is huge. This is huge.
The effect on Nigeria, not only Africa's most populous country, but also its largest economy, could be particularly severe.
Oh, this is huge. This is huge.
So apparently, America issued almost 8,000 immigrant visas to Nigeria
last year, right?
So that's ending.
Oh man.
I mean, you can't stop whatever you're thinking that you're stopping. It's not going to.
Of course
I mean,
not.
even when they can come here and visit.
But to be honest,
wreak havoc if that's what you're thinking. That
so
they're
all
terrorists.
our uncles that are pro-Trump. Where are you now? I want to hear what they have to say.
To be
They probably
honest,
agree with
this is good.
No, because their family can't come here.
this
Well,
is-
no, but sometimes there's some people that are like
I
that.
mean,
They're
Yeah,
like,
but this
oh,
is
yeah, I
good-ish because it has to make the
Nigerian government.
government, because to be
More
honest, too,
accountable.
they talk about security, and they talk about Nigerian security rules. I thought it's scored to go. Talk about security rules, and we, how common it is for Nigerians to just migrate here.
Yeah.
Some people use fake documents. I once walked out of a church one day because the pastor was preaching about somebody who basically paid someone for their visa lottery, and he made it seem like it was a blessing, and the person who sold it did not know the value of their blessings. And I'm like, if churches are preaching about this thing, illegal act, it was very. I literally left the church because it was like, the hell is this guy saying? So it's become a norm.
I mean, it's a common practice.
It's a common practice, and so because of that, and the government isn't really doing anything about it, which I feel like they should, because not because.
Wait,
it's
Nigerian
embarrassing,
government?
but because it's like we're losing a lot of quality people
Yes.
to migration.
Brain drain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't care about it. They're like, if you want to leave. If you go suffer, you suffer. If you have a better life, that's your headache. We don't
Since
really care.
when did Nigeria government ever care about anything
So, but now
their citizens anyway?
it helps in a way. And then the one I actually wants it is I need it to start affecting people in politics.
Yes.
Because when they can't
Yes.
get visas to travel, then you're forced. A lot of them have assets and kids and family here.
But you don't think they're exempt from it?
I think they are. That's why I said I
feel
needed
like
to start.
When you're in the government, you might be exempt
so
from these rules.
Yeah.
The clip came out of the pastor guy.
But I think it might have been fake.
Well, somebody came out and said the guy was denied a visa.
Bishop Oyedepo.
Oyedepo. Now, it might be fake, but I'm a little skeptical. I'm a little skeptical because why is the American mission in Nigeria tweeting about that case? It's
they are?
yeah, they tweeted about it. They said it was false.
They said it was false.
Why are you guys tweeting about?
Why are you invested in
story?
that?
Yeah,
Right.
story that somebody supposedly go. I feel he did get denied, and he made a few phone calls.
I think so.
And they tried to rectify it.
I think
that's
so
what I
too.
think
I
happened.
have a
So
strong feeling.
I have a feeling.
It was these days that
It was, so I feel like it did.
So it is real.
I
It
feel like it's
happened.
real. I feel like they would get situations like people like that where they get denied, but you make a few phone calls, it gets reversed.
And then they also said it's false, but they didn't say what part of it was
part
false.
was false, yeah.
So that's like a way to kind of cover themselves.
But I do
too.
feel like the politicians will be exempt and people in power will be exempt. And the moment those guys are exempt, those are actually the people that actually need to be
suffering
from
yes.
it, because they're the ones who determine
Ruin the country.
They're the ones who ruin the country, take the money from the country. So if you stop them, it'll be better. But unfortunately, it's the poor that's going to suffer. It's people, regular 9-to-5ers that's going to suffer. It's regular middle class average Joes that are going to suffer, which is sad. People who have families there, who they can't find a good job and they want to migrate here for better living to improve the economy here. Those are people who are going to suffer.
And that's the thing. Nigerians are hard workers in America. Like education, even like we're one of the immigrants, number one immigrant group, the most educated one in America.
Yeah.
So like,
I think we're like right underneath like some Asian countries.
it's crazy.
Oh, well.
It's sad, but
So is there some? I just have a question. I'm just curious. Is there anything going on in Nigeria that would make people want to leave now? Like leave? the country?
I mean,
like I know about the other ones that are on the list.
Yes.
They're in war, but what's going on in Nigeria?
So in the northern part of Nigeria, we have certain
a terrorist groups.
Boko Haram. Boko Haram is the one.
I have heard of that. Okay.
You heard of them?
Remember they bring back our girls?
Oh yes.
Was them.
Yeah. So that they have a terrorist designation, which technically falls under a terrorist designation, and so there's that threat. But it's not like if you go to Nigeria, you wouldn't even, like if you went to Lagos, for instance, you wouldn't even hear. Right. They're not down. They're only in certain parts, like the really impoverished part of the north, and it's like only in certain sectors.
So this doesn't really hold up then, because Boko Haram is not coming to America.
No, she's asking her why are people trying to leave.
I'm saying for Trump, if he's gonna use
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really hold up. It doesn't
Boko
really.
Haram does not leave Nigeria. They don't even leave their portion
he's probably going to say they can radicalize.
But then there's a risk that they could.
To be honest, Nigerians leave the country a lot, and for the most part, we're coming to do good. And I'm sure he just used Boko Haram and Muslims as the excuse that they believe in and can use it. As for people wanting to leave Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians are migrating to Canada right now.
Yes.
Standard of living in Nigeria is actually poor.
Yes.
And there are two ways to it. The people play a part and the government plays its part too. The people try to get one over each other because they're desperate. So, you leave your house to go to work. You spend 4 hours in traffic on a gridlock that could have been fixed if the road was just done properly. Right. Or even if the road was done properly, some idiots would drive on the other side of the road. Right. And then there's a whole gridlock. So the people play a part. You get to your job. You're getting paid next to nothing. You pay for stuff, electricity and stuff like that, and they still don't provide it 24/7. Yes, so we don't have a lot of things. Terrible. Medical system, it's not the best. Some parts are good.
Non-existent. I'm sorry.
If you don't have money, there was a girl who got stabbed months ago. She went to the hospital and they were asking for a police report before they could treat her, and she died. You serious? Mindset like that, where the hospital thinks it's right for them to actually say, before we treat your stab wound, we need a police report. It makes sense you want to see a police report, but not before you treat her. Yeah. So so you're not even guaranteed a good life if you don't have power or money.
So it's a lot of struggle. My next question too would be why choose America if there's so much racism, homophobia? Why not France? Why not UK, Canada? Why not?
Because America is the most prosperous country.
But why don't you pick another place before you get here? Right? Because there's so much struggle.
You know why?
To get in.
Why? Because it's just as hard to get into a lot of those countries too, and a lot of those countries they're also very very racist. Right. They were also very, very racist. They have racist policies. In France, it's actually really bad.
In America.
Yes. But
it's actually really bad. Sorry, you're about to say.
No, I said, well, then it's really no different than America.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's just, in a lot of ways, America is more overt with it.
Yeah.
But
European countries are more like,
I've heard about the racism in other countries.
It's there.
But it seems as if it's
I think it's more overt in Europe. I think it is. Have you been to a soccer match in Europe?
It's more what? No, in the sense of country.
They'll call you
but I tell you something too. Right. America was sold to, like, the dream of America. The American dream was sold.
American dream.
To the public. When you have like Hollywood. Hollywood sells a lot of dreams to people. You see,
but that's what people see.
I thought when I went to college, the hallways would be a lot of naked girls, man.
So let me tell you a funny story. Think about
but that's Hollywood, man.
Hollywood dream. My brother, when he got here when he was, I think 5, and my dad was here. He picked him up at the airport. We moved to Silver Spring. My brother was like, "When are we going to America?" His dream of America is like Hollywood, Beverly Hills.
So you get sold that
he
dream.
saw on TV. Yeah. Silver Spring is not America to him.
You see that dream, American dream. So people start to believe, money than the currency. People start, when you hear someone here is making $30,000 a year, and you convert that to Naira, it's a lot of money, but you're not factoring that $30,000 a year is actually not a good salary here.
America,
so
it's poverty.
It is poverty, if we're being honest. So a lot of that, and then people don't want to hear, like, you don't know until you're in it.
Until you're in it.
It looks good on the house. The grass always looks green on the
But
outside.
I would say though, America is one of the countries that it's a very capitalistic society. Yeah. It's one of the countries where your capability of pulling yourself out of poverty, whatever, is so high here.
And you can do it on your own.
And it's another thing about America is it's such a huge country. Yeah. there's so much space. Unlike if you go to the UK, for instance, there's people are struggling to get jobs there because it's so competitive. In America, there's a lot more opportunities, and I think that's what drives a lot of the mass migration into the States. And so I think that
also
that plays
speak English here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that work with America.
Speak English.
There's a lot of things
if you
that
go somewhere else, you would have to.
You would have to struggle. So there's a lot of European countries.
Yeah, so it is, and the European countries, a lot of people do starting to see that there's a lot of racism and the racism there is underlining because you're not even expecting it.
Right.
It's very. Very like it's
another thing is I think the US is a lot more sensitive to racism. I don't think they are sensitive to racism as they are in the UK because they don't have that.
They don't believe
slavery.
It exists.
Right.
They don't have that slavery context to go with
it. There's nothing to point to that. You know what? Yes, the US.
The black people in America are more vocal about the racism.
Because slavery, you can easily just point to you guys used to own us.
Right.
Everywhere else, like, no, we didn't never have slavery.
It's a lot different here than in European countries. That's why my cousin was saying because